right now on 5 on your side at 10.
A violent start to the week, putting children in danger.
It's heartbreaking, honestly.
The group stepping up to help the city bring down crime. 2 issues, 1 cause.
It was a perfect storm.
From taxes to snow removal, the talk of improvements at the center of tonight's St. Louis County Council meeting. We start tonight with the weather impact forecast and a live look over downtown St. Louis. Soak in the dry time now. We are in for a string of rainy days. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Kelly Jackson.
And I'm Mike Bush. Rain is moving our way tonight. Some of you could see freezing drizzle in the morning. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell is tracking the timing and the line between frozen and liquid precipitation.
Yeah, you know, nothing is reaching the ground that's on the radar screen right now, but we already have a few echoes showing up here over towards Greenville, over towards Nokomis, Illinois. This is all aloft. On the way down, those raindrops are encountering the dry air, so they tend to evaporate. We have dropped back into the upper 30s in St. Louis. Notice Kansas City's down to 29. Kirksville right now sits at 28 degrees. While most of us are still above freezing, the areas to our north are the areas where we're more concerned. We get right around to just a hair below freezing as this drizzle starts to develop. After about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and through the morning rush hour. Nothing really heavy early on. For most of us, it's just damp to wet roads. A little extra time. We'll all need that tomorrow morning with the wet roads. But you see, central, northern portions of Illinois, northern portions of Missouri, that does include Pike County. We have the winter weather advisory here. Those are the areas that we will watch north of St. Louis for very light freezing rain. The impacts are mainly on elevated surfaces. Could get an icy spot on a bridge or two, but for the rest of us, it's just damp roads as we head into tomorrow.
Breaking news just into our newsroom. Police looking for a man wanted for child sex trafficking. An at-large warrant has been issued for 29-year-old Kieron Austin Williams. According to court documents, Ferguson police tracked down 2 missing underage girls at a residence on Pershing Avenue, just north of Forest Park. Both teenage girls told investigators Williams encouraged them to run away and paid them for sex. We're working to get more information on this breaking news story, and we'll bring you updates on air and online.
Just 2 hours ago, Pagedale Police Chief Anthony Huckleberry told us his car was shot at today. He says it happened along Page Avenue near Sutter at around 4:30. Huckleberry said in a statement he was not injured and he was the only one in the car. Pagedale Police is investigating. If you have any information, you're asked to call 314-726-1112.
Developing tonight, a juvenile now in custody in connection to the shooting of a 10-year-old girl in Riverview. The shooting happened just before noon today on Scenic Drive. Officers found the girl with a gunshot wound and took her to a hospital for, quote, life-saving treatment. But within the last 2 hours, police told us she is expected to survive.
We are learning more about a teen who was shot and killed in the Metro East. Police identified the victim as 16-year-old Dorico Washington. The teen was shot multiple times outside his home on North 81st Street last night. Investigators believe Washington knew his attackers. Police have not made any arrests so far. They would not share how many suspects could be involved.
Right now, police need your help finding 2 suspects in a shooting that injured a high school student on his way to school. St. Louis police released new pictures and video of the suspects. The shooting happened yesterday morning near Pennsylvania and Potomac. Police say the 2 suspects were arguing with the 19-year-old and shot him. The victim is still recovering in the hospital. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. That number 866-371-TIPS.
New at 10, city leaders and violent interrupters are putting a plan into action to cut down on crime in our community.
5 on your side's Brent Solomon is the only reporter getting a first look at the very first training session that just kicked off today. Brent?
Well, the Save Lives Now initiative is something Mayor Tashara Jones and County Executive Sam Page have joined forces on to implement in the city and county, even in St. Clair County. The goal of reducing shootings by 20% in 3 years now being met with a strategy. We've introduced you to these violence interrupters on several occasions. Here's the group Show Me Peace just last week canvassing North City, days after a 4-year-old girl was shot and killed. Now the group is headed to class.
Even when you feel numb, that's still a feeling.
Learning how to apply the cognitive behavioral theory to their everyday work.
Because if we focus on the trauma and not the behavior, we have a real chance of changing the person.
A group called ROCA from Baltimore teaching strategies that have worked there.
Over 80% retention rate, over 80% reduction in recidivism.
So they can be applied here. The goal is to change the way people think so that they can think clearly before they act.
It only takes 8 to 10 seconds for you to be able to do something different than what you originally thought about doing. So if I'm thinking you offended me and I want to hurt you, 8 to 10 seconds could make me think he offended me, but it's not worth me hurting you.
Organizers say it's all about having empathy, understanding what causes people to offend, and then addressing that root.
If a child is stealing, for example, right? And then I go to that child and say, stop stealing. Then I'm like, I find out that they was hungry, right? So me telling them to stop stealing means stop eating, right? So I'm not condoning the fact that they stealing. I'm just acknowledging the fact that there's context to why they doing it. We're not trying to move away from accountability.
But after accountability, they say, comes a new opportunity to get it right.
How to actually make decisions later on that don't always have to lead you to being held accountable in this way.
I've learned the city is investing more than $610,000 in this ongoing training. This is the first of several more initiatives underway addressing different topics with different groups, including faith leaders and community organizations collaborating with police.
Tax payments and snow removal both have been headaches for St. Louis County residents.
And tonight, the County Council put the Transportation and Revenue Departments in the hot seat. 5 on your side's Laura Barcheski is in the newsroom to break down the response on both issues. Laura.
Mike and Kelly, while both of these departments do very different things for St. Louis County residents, they're actually dealing with the same problem. That's staffing. On Tuesday afternoon, the St. Louis County Council took resident issues head-on with leaders of both the Transportation and Revenue Departments. During early January winter storms, residents couldn't get out of their homes for days, and the Department of Transportation says they truly couldn't clear the roads fast enough because of the way the storm hit, but also because of staffing.
So we've had to balance, because we have vacancies all over the department, had to balance what we can do in operations.
They only had 145 drivers of 185 positions filled, working 13 continuous shifts. On top of that, they had to deal with equipment breaking down.
We had 2 districts that had 8 trucks down at each district because we don't have the mechanics to keep the trucks up.
County Councilman Mark Harder says they're now going to focus on recruitment to try and prevent this from happening again.
We've got to do a better job of hiring and training, and hopefully the residents of St. Louis County can help us out. If you're a retired truck driver, if you have a CDL license and don't want to do over-the-road truck driving, we could use you on our crews, either part-time or full-time.
It's the same staffing story for the Department of Revenue when it came time to process tax payments. They only have 26 of 50 full-time positions staffed, and on top of that, more than half of their temporary staff didn't come in to help.
We didn't have enough people, even with pulling the folks from the Recorder of Deeds.
But the problems and delays started way before that, when taxing jurisdictions didn't send the county their tax rates on time.
We're supposed to get those by October 1st. This year, we had, I don't know, a dozen or so that did not give those to us by October 1st. We got our last one October 15th.
The department had the biggest problems with mail-in payments and really encourages people to do it online now. Council Vice Chair Dennis Hancock says the county as a whole needs to either come up with more people or find ways to process payments faster.
We need to be doing maybe a better job of educating the public about what's available to them, if they need help processing their payments, where they can go to process those payments, and that sort of information.
Officials say if you mailed your tax payments and it hasn't been processed, don't make a duplicate payment and do not stop payment on your check. That will only slow down this process. If you mailed in your check on time, they will verify that and you won't be charged late fees. They have about 6,000 checks left to go through and hope to finish by the end of the week.
Right now, the RAM settlement money is stuck in limbo after the Board of Aldermen couldn't agree on a spending plan. During today's meeting, the board was unable to come up to a consensus on any of the 7 plans to break up the nearly $300 million pot. The main debate, how much should go towards water infrastructure? Some aldermen call it a dire need. Others say the money is needed more elsewhere.
The reality is, us giving $40 million right now to water after we just raised people a water bill, it's still going to be, a pun on words, a drop in the bucket to water. They need ultimately 400-some million.
Water is the most basic of the basic item that we provide to our public. It's the one thing that people cannot live without.
Other plans would distribute the money to North City, South City, and downtown, while others would give more to child care services and workforce trainings.
City leaders and proponents of the downtown plan are speaking out over today's decision. Mayor Tashara Jones released a statement saying, quote, "When cooler heads prevail, my hope is that the Board of Aldermen will bring a bill to my desk that directs these historic funds to benefit all of St. Louis in ways that our residents can see and feel. Until then, these funds will continue to grow." The business group Greater St. Louis Inc. is also responding, saying, quote, "St. Louis has pressing needs that require bold action and major investment. Today's lack of action by the Board of Aldermen means these urgent needs continue to go unmet."
Deadly underride crashes going under the radar.
Fix your trucks. Vehicles should not go underneath the truck.
Tonight, two mothers driving a national call for change.
I became a mom on a mission to make truck crashes more survivable.
This active weather pattern continues. Cold and damp on Wednesday, more wet weather to start the weekend, and yes, there is a chance of snow next week. We'll see you in 7 minutes.
We have breaking news. Within the last 15 minutes, Belleville police announced they arrested 3 people in the deadly shooting of a Belleville teen. One suspect is a juvenile. The other 2 are adults. Police have confirmed the victim, 16-year-old Dorico Washington, knew the suspects. They believe the shooting stemmed from a deal over drugs and guns.
New at 10, it's a decades-old problem, and a major verdict in St. Louis brought even more attention to the matter.
We're talking about underrides. It's when a car slides underneath a semi-truck. Tonight, Justina Coronel takes a closer look into the problem of risky rigs, a problem touching families here and across the nation.
Tangible tokens at her fingertips. These treasures trapping time.
This is Nicholas' sweatshirt, and it has this scent in the sweatshirt.
Meaningful mementos for Liz Perkins Carson.
I want his name, Nicholas Alexander Perkins Carson, to get put out there in public and people to know that he's not just a name.
Her son and a friend were killed in a St. Louis crash known as an underride. It's when a car slides underneath a semi-truck or tractor trailer. One of the biggest cases involved actress Jane Mansfield. She was killed in a 1967 underride crash, which led to the mandatory installation of underride guards. Yet advocates say the preventable problem continues, going underreported and overlooked.
All those things that are supposed to protect the survival space of occupants, that all doesn't work.
Perkins Carson never knew until partnering with St. Louis's Simon Law Firm. The case resulted in a $462 million verdict this past fall. At trial, attorneys argued the trucking company ignored decades of research about its rear impact guards, also known as rigs, to prevent this from happening.
If those changes were in place, do you think your son would still be here today?
Absolutely. I do.
During the trial, she met longtime advocate Mary Ann Carth.
And I became a mom on a mission to make truck crashes more survivable.
That mission brought her to St. Louis as a fact witness in the case, a witness after losing her own children.
11 years ago on May 4th, 2013, I got in my Crown Vic to go on a road trip with the 3 youngest of our 9 children. The rear underride guard on the back of the truck, which met the federal standard from 1998. It came right off, and the back of our car went underneath the back of the truck. And Annalie and Mary were sitting in the back seat. Annalie died instantly, and Mary a few days later from her injuries.
She has her own keepsake.
Mary was taken to a hospital 2 hours from mine, so I never saw her again, and the nurse cut off her braids.
The memories of her daughters motivate her to move the needle.
The major reasons that they give for not doing it is cost. It will add weight to the trucks, and that will therefore reduce the payload they're able to carry, to transport.
They can do it. They know they can do it.
How does that make you feel?
Like, we don't matter. And that's not acceptable.
For Karth, she continues demanding change with her daughters at the forefront.
I think that they would be happy to know that other people wouldn't have to die that way and other families wouldn't have to go through the unimaginable grief.
And for Perkins Carson, she's reminded of her son daily through her granddaughter.
It's so reassuring that it's like he lives in her.
In honor of her son, she's fighting to protect future generations. Justina Cornell, 5 on Your Side.
And Marianne Karth hopes new Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy will consider creating the role of a national roadway safety advocate. The idea was proposed by 2 members of Congress last year through the Department of Transportation Victim and Survivor Act.
The birds are flying south for winter. The Cardinals posted these images today as they head down to Jupiter, Florida for spring training, just as winter makes a comeback in St. Louis.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell joins us now with the weather impact forecast. We've had a couple of nice days, 70s yesterday,
Yes.
but now we're talking the possibility of freezing rain.
Those days are gone.
Yes, the possibility is there tomorrow morning, but for most of us, it's just rain. It's mainly our northern counties where we have a little more concern. Now, if you're flying tomorrow, it looks like the planes for most of the morning flights are already at Lambert at the gate right now. Here's the deal. There may be a few delays early tomorrow morning as we have the low clouds and the mist around, plus other airports have to deal with this weather. For St. Louis, it's just going to be wet weather. But north of town, you get up towards Bowling Green and Pike County, there is going to be about a 3 to 6 hour window where we will be looking at some freezing drizzle, light freezing rain. But the biggest impact will be on elevated surfaces, maybe on the power lines and the fence you get a little coating, but on the ground temperatures are still at 40 degrees tonight. They had a chance to warm up over the weekend. Clouds are on the increase across the region right now. Nothing falling from the sky locally. Out west, it's a different story. Active weather pattern here as the Pacific sends us more active weather over the next several days. We're going to have a series of systems coming through. Your winter weather advisory tonight, early tomorrow. That's for northern Missouri, central and northern portions of Illinois, up into Iowa, back towards Kansas City, mainly for some light freezing rain and freezing drizzle. Locally, the impacts are limited because the temperature's just around 32 in Pittsfield, 33, 31 or so in Litchfield. With it just flirting with freezing up to the north of St. Louis, you'd have to get it a bit colder, 26, 27, 28, before we'd really start ramping up our concerns about the roads because the road temperatures have had a chance to warm up. It's also very light freezing rain or freezing drizzle, so the impacts are limited here, mainly to some elevated surfaces, the bridges. Most of us around the metro area are running 33, 34, 35 degrees, and do keep in mind 32, while it's the freezing point, it's also the melting point, so you can go either way. Here's a look at what we expect by daybreak. You'll start to see that rain and drizzle picking up south and southwest of St. Louis. It spreads into the metro. Again, in the coldest spots, there might be a pocket of a little bit of freezing rain or drizzle, but for most of us, this is just creating wet roads. It picks up a little bit during the evening hours. That's when we could get a downpour too, especially east of St. Louis. Then the whole thing scoots out of here as we head into the early morning hours on Thursday, and temperatures will start to rebound a bit Thursday afternoon. Tomorrow's kind of a miserable day. Some impacts on the roads. Saturday, late Friday night, Saturday, some more rain. And then on Sunday, we cool down a bit. And by Monday and Tuesday, that'll set the stage for potentially a little bit of snow. Doesn't look like a big system yet. We'll track it. 38 right now. Our high today was 47 degrees. Tomorrow, most of the day is probably going to be spent in that 35 to 40 degree range for most of us. Then it'll climb a bit during the evening hours tomorrow. You're around 50 to 52 degrees as we head towards Thursday. And then over the weekend with those showers on Saturday, we get the temperatures back into the upper 50s. Colder next week, though.
All right, thanks, Scott. Here's Frank with sports.
Well, the Billikens couldn't have had a better ending, and the Blues couldn't have had a worse one. Stick around, please.
This 5 on Your Side Sports Report is sponsored by Onder Law Injury Attorneys.
So the last team you wanted to see if you are the Blues who are scrambling for that final playoff spot is the Edmonton Oilers. They may be the most gifted team in the league. Second period, no score. Oilers on the power play, and here's the great Connor McDavid, and this is now a 1-0 game. Early third period, Blues on the power play, and the puck will slide across to Jordan Kyrou for this goal, his 23rd, one more than McDavid this season. And later in the third, Colton Parayko will unleash. Blues lead 2-1, his 12th of the season. The Oilers tied it late in regulation, and then in overtime, McDavid to Connor Brown. Oilers win 3-2.
There's something we can do better. All world players, you got to know where those two are on the ice because they're going to look for each other. But we had a couple of opportunities to get that puck in and spend valuable time in the offensive zone, and we didn't do it.
We were bummed when SLU laid an egg against Dayton on Friday, but I got to tell you, what happened at UMass tonight almost makes up for it. Listen closely. They were down 5 points with 38 seconds to go in the game. UMass coach Frank Martin pulling a Costanza. I think he's ensconced in velvet. What makes this comeback even more amazing? Robbie Avila fouled out with 8:30 to play. Okay, here we go. Isaiah Swope to the rack to shave the lead to 3 with 37 seconds to go. Then 12 seconds later, Swope to Kalu Anya. The lead is cut to 3. And then this is crazy. Amari McCautry will get a steal, and Swope will miss the first 3. Amari gets on the floor again, and Swope will drain the 3 right here. It's a 7-0 run in 28 seconds, and SLU escapes with a 73-71 victory.
You know, you never know. You just compete, and we got certainly fortunate, tonight. But we proud of our guys for how they competed, the fact they didn't give up, the fact they showed resilience.
Brian Baroni and SIUE having a wonderful season hosting Eastern Illinois tonight. They had it working too. Brian Taylor, Des Polk, he'll pop the 3. Later, Taylor will zip it inside to Miles Thompson. The Cougars roll 66-41. They're 9-4 in the conference. Size mattered at Chaminade tonight with John Burroughs in town. 4 players 6'8" or above, and all these juniors are Division I players. Here's one of them, Tristan Reed, 6'10". He's drilling a 3-pointer there. Owen Walther banks in a 3-pointer really nicely. That's a smooth stroke. He's one of the best shooters in St. Louis. Jahidi White Jr. says to Reed, well, just get it out of here. Jamison White, his brother, fast break layup. And Jamison later with a 3-pointer to end the first half. Chaminade wins it 54-42. So Torrey Holt already knows if he made it to the Hall of Fame. The rest of us will find out Thursday night at the NFL Awards Night. The very deserving Ram receiver has now been on the ballot for 11 years and has been a finalist 6 times. I think Torrey would have thrived playing in this Kansas City offense of Andy Reid. Look at this play that Reid came up with to win last year's Super Bowl. It was called Corn Dog. The man has an incredible mind, and he's also not afraid to find plays to run from many different sources.
We've gotten them from everywhere. So if high school, if we see something we like, we put it in. We've gone back to the 30s and looked at some of the wing tee and all that good stuff that they do or did back then, and we've used some of that. So we'll take anything as long as we think it's a good one.
Can't wait for
Sunday. And he makes it work.
Yep.
The Animal Kingdom may be rooting against Red Kingdom. What a Super Bowl win for the Eagles means for furry fans. Blues fans, it's time to act fast. Right now, you can buy Blues tickets with no fees. However, the offer expires at midnight, so not much time. The deal includes any single home game tickets for the rest of the season. The note is setting a limit, though, of only 8 tickets per game per transaction.
Your pet may have a lot riding on this year's Super Bowl. The company Chewy announced it's giving away 59,000 treats for birds, dogs, and cats. But that's only if the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs. If Philly wins, the online pet food retailer will release a promo code you can enter on its website.
Well, one furry fan is showing support for the Chiefs. A zoo in Iowa had its tiger predict the winner, and after picking up the Eagles box, he quickly threw it away in favor of Red Kingdom. The zoo says its animals are accurate 80% of the time, which is better than Frank. Last year, the zoo's catfish correctly picked the Chiefs.
And he did that with certainty.
Yes, he did.
I wonder how the catfish did last year. All right, tomorrow morning we will be a little damp around St. Louis, but most of the metro area is just wet. You get up Highway 61 up to 67 going farther north, and that's where we may have a little pocket or two of some freezing drizzle, light freezing rain, but for most of us the roads are just damp to wet, and you'll need just a little extra time getting out the door tomorrow morning because of those wet roads and through the day. It just takes a little longer when it's damp. We'll struggle to get back to 45 by the evening. Weekend starts on the wet side.
And there you have it, 5 on your side at 10. We're always streaming on 5+.
Have a great evening.